Thank you so much for joining us for our very first webinar. We want to make these short, sweet, and fun. So as you may have seen throughout our posts or our emails, we would say that we would keep this webinar to 23 minutes. And I even asked why 23. So we'll talk a little bit about why 23 minutes here at the end. But thank you all so much for joining us. Pete Newbig and myself, Peter Hernandez, we are your host and co-host for this webinar. We're excited to bring you over the next coming months a couple of different topics that we know are super important to the industry, and more importantly, they are high priority in your business. So before we get started, let's just do a real quick intro, Pete, for anyone that does not know Mr. Pete Newbig. Tell us a little bit about yourself just in a minute or so.
Yeah, okay. Well, thanks again, everybody, for being here. My name is Pete Newbig. I was the co-founder of Empire Industries. We came from the investor side. We started with 0 doors, or doors that we owned, 30 of them. And we took it to about 980 in 3 markets, and we sold to Mind. Mind gave me a nice cushy job called East Region Vice President. It was basically a nice title, but it meant Senior Property Manager. Stayed there for about 1.5 years and then started VPM Solutions. I was the NARPM RVP. I'm a big fan of NARPM. If you're not a NARPM member, I highly suggest that you join NARPM if you're in the property management industry. I have a bunch of initials after my name. I am a broker still in the state of Texas. And if you didn't know, NARPM has a radio podcast. If you go to narpm.org and click on radio, there's a podcast. And if you want to get even more of me, I don't know if you can't sleep at night, you can play the podcast, and I'll put you to sleep in about 5 minutes.
Pete, thank you for that intro. And I love that you said that you're still a broker, which is, I think, super important as we're talking to people who are in this industry. And, may say, well, what does Pete Newbig, or what does Peter know about, about org charts or, job descriptions or what we need in the property management industry? Well, you just said it. You are still a broker. You've got a lot of experience in the industry. So I think that was super important. I will bore you with my details. You may have seen my face here or there. I've been around NARPM for 10 plus years, been with different service providers in the industry, like Mr. Reiki as Director of Sales there, CEO of Citizen Home Solutions, and now here at VPM as CGO. Very involved with the Texas and Florida state conferences and the boards there. Also the founder of PM Hell. So I won't bore you with any more details about that. We'll just jump right into it because we told you guys we'd make this short. We don't have to stretch this out for an hour for you guys to learn a lot today. And we have someone with a lot of experience with us here today who is going to tell us about our topic, which is, what is an org chart? And is there more than one kind? We'll start with that question. Pete, we've got a great audience this afternoon, so let's jump right into it. I'm going to stop sharing this for now, and let's talk about that. What is exactly an org chart in the property management space or the housing space? And is there more than one kind?
Yeah. So, by the way, keeping it to 20 minutes is going to be a task because Peter knows I love to talk.
I'm going to keep you in line.
He's got to ring the bell or something, and I'm going to have to stop talking. So, yeah. So an org chart basically is basically a graphical kind of depiction of what your organization looks like, right? And there's multiple org charts in the property management industry, right? So we've all heard the buzzwords: portfolio, hybrid, departmental, and then the last one is pod based, right? And as you grow your business, then your organizational structure changes. The org chart basically allows you to keep track of what's going on in your organization and what does that structure actually look like. And so that's what the different org charts are. And we actually created some. So there's a link on our website. I don't know if Peter's going to put it out there or Daniela put it out there for everybody. You can download it for free. And so those are what the org charts are. Pete, should I go into why do we do it? Why do we build the org chart?
Let's talk a little bit about that. Why is an org chart important in any business? Let's start there.
Yeah, because look, when I was growing Empire, right, when you're growing your business, what happens is you have lots of challenges in your business and you're like, what the heck is going on? And I can tell you that as a business is growing, you're going to run into these challenges. And the actual structure of your organization is the main reason for a lot of these challenges in your business. So that's why it's really important for you to create the org chart so you can kind of see ahead of time where these challenges might be. Another reason why you want to have the org chart is, especially even if you're just like a one-man or a two-man shop. When Steve and I started Empire, right, we built this org chart because we literally were stepping on each other's toes, right? So we were like, Steve would be calling a resident, and I would call a resident, and like we call the same resident. And what happens is, especially when you're a smaller firm, you wear many hats, right? You wear the bookkeeping hat, the leasing hat, the property accounting hat. You wear all these hats, and so you're like, well, Pete, I don't need an org chart because I'm the one who does everything, right? But each hat is actually a job that has to be done in your organization. So even if you have people doing multiple jobs, you should break that out in your org chart so that you can see how many jobs that person is doing. So when Steve and I created Empire, we literally had an org chart, from sales manager to sales associate to inside sales rep. So all Steve. One of the rules that we had early on was Pete and Steve, right? You can't have two people in the same box. Somebody has to own that job, right? This way you don't step on each other's toes. So when you build your org chart, even if you're by yourself, you want to make sure that you understand all of the job roles that it takes to complete the industry, to complete the work that's needed to be done.
So are you saying that you understand everything that you need in the business for it to work? Does that mean that if it's a small group, small organization, you're going to have your name in multiple boxes or multiple parts of the org chart?
Absolutely, right? You hear about wearing multiple hats. Now, you should have three types of org charts from the very beginning. Right? You talked about portfolio and hybrid, right? And that's just a fancy way of saying, what does the company look like in the future, right? So with whatever organization you're in, you should have what the current org structure is today. What does it look like today? Okay. Then you should have a second org chart on what I call the next 5. And that's the next 5 job roles that you identify that you're going to hire for. So as you grow the business, or if you want to grow the business, what are those next job roles going to be? And it could be either these are the jobs that I really don't like doing, and I'm wearing multiple hats and I want to get rid of one, right? And that's why VPM is actually pretty successful, because that's what most people are doing, right? They're like, man, I don't want to be the property accountant anymore. So they go hire somebody, right? So having the org structure in front of you literally maps out what the next roles you're going to hire for. Okay.
Yep.
And then the last one, Peter, is what does it look like when I'm done? Now, this doesn't have to be perfect. What this exercise is doing is it is really getting you to think about your vision, right? Everybody talks about what's the vision of your organization? How many cities do you want to be in? How many doors do you want to manage? Let's say I just want to be in Houston and I want to manage 1,500 doors. What does the organization have to look like to be able to manage those doors? What does my marketing team have to look like, and my sales team to bring in those doors? What does my operations team have to look like? Am I going to do brokerage? If so, then what does that look like? So it makes you think about what it is that you're trying to accomplish. So you mimic your org chart with the vision.
Okay, so that's a great point right there. So you're saying, depending on your vision of your business or your company, that's going to determine your org chart.
Yep, correct. So I talked about so if you're a smaller firm, easiest way is like, okay, what are the 5 things I don't like doing? All right, and I'm gonna fill those jobs at some point. Another way to go about it is if you're a little bit, if your firm is a little bit bigger, right? Then the next thing might be, okay, where do I want to get to? And if I want to grow the business, right, then my org chart might look like, my boxes might be red because those are the ones I'm going to hire next for a salesperson or BDM, an inside salesperson, or even a social media person, right? So when you're thinking about growth, now you look at, oh, well, that makes sense. These are the boxes that I'm probably going to hire next. Once you have growth, all of a sudden you're like, okay, well, now I hired the marketing person and the salesperson. Well, I'm not going to hire 4 salespeople because now I'm going to need another property manager, or I'm going to need some kind of operations on the back end.
Yeah.
And the last way you can go about it is what's killing you right now, right? So at Empire, maintenance was beating us up. I want to hire 4 maintenance coordinators, man. I'm like, I need maintenance coordinators like anything else. And so I might have had one in my org chart that I was going to hire, and I realized, okay, well, I need to hire actually more of them. So just because you identify what positions are going to be next in your org chart, that doesn't mean that you can't reroute and say I'm going to change something else. These are the you can always move on what you're gonna hire for. That makes
Okay.
sense.
Now you touched on something. So let's just say you're a mid-sized company, but you have a small staff. You touched on there's things that you just don't like to do, and we always talk about this in business. You want to delegate things that you don't like to do, and then things that you're not good at, right? So that being said, does that affect, and how does that affect your org chart?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's say I have Daniela working for me, and Daniela is doing property management, but she's kind of like a portfolio manager. So she's doing property management, she's doing tenant relations, she's doing lease renewals, she's doing leasing, she's doing all that stuff, right? Well, I can either hire another Daniela and cut that off and give Daniela 60 doors and then bring another Daniela Jr. for 60 doors and kind of build my company that way. Or I can say, you know what, I'm going to go more hybrid. And instead of having Daniela do all these things, I'm going to have her do more doors, but I'm going to have Daniela have help. And now I just got Daniela Jr., but she's going to do leasing and she's going to do, tenant relations, and she's going to do something. So she might be wearing 2 or 3 hats at first, right? And then the more hats you put on somebody, the harder it is to find the personality trait that will fill all those job roles, if that makes sense. It's also harder to create key performance indicators for that one role, right? Because if I have 11 hats on, now I have 11 KPIs, and that's way too much, right? The rule of thumb for key performance indicators for a lower level position or just any position is 1 to 3 KPIs, 7 at the company level, 1 to 3 for each position in your company. And then, of course, if you're asking people to do completely different personality types in different boxes, that's a unicorn. They don't exist. So it's hard they may be good at 3 things, but the 4th thing they may not be very good at. So you use the org chart to determine where you're going to slice and dice and what each of these job roles require as far as personality traits and what key performance indicators are.
Perfect. And I love that you gave everyone some teasers on what's coming up in the next couple of months, right? We're going to have a webinar about KPIs. We're going to have a webinar about personality traits and profile. But I forgot to mention, if you guys have any questions, please put them in the chat. That we have one here, Pete. I think let's talk about this one real quick, as it kind of ties in with what you're saying. As you're hiring, do you think it makes sense to place a highly operational individual over a highly growth-minded individual, or something similar?
Yeah, I think it depends, right? So I hate when people tell me it depends, but it does. Okay, so if you are in need of growth at this moment in time, then it's growth. If you have too much growth and you have churn issues, then you need the operational people. So I'll give you an example. At Empire, for the first 2 years, I literally hired for growth. My first person was a bookkeeper because I was terrible at it. So I had to find somebody to do that, right? But my second person was a marketing person. And then the next person was a salesperson. And then I started hiring operational people. I was one of the few companies that actually had a full-time marketing person on staff back in, 2000 and I think, what was it, 12, 13, 14, around there. Now you hear the term BDM all the time, but we did it back then. So the answer is, where's the pain point in your business, in your organization? And then that's why I love the next 5, right? So you have your org chart. The next 5 tells you where you want to go, and then what issues you're having in your business, and that's who you should be hiring for. Yep. I hope I answered your question.
Absolutely, sure did. So you were going to touch on why VPM decided to create resources like an org chart. So tell us a little bit about that. Yeah,
well, I built so many resources when I built Empire, from 30 doors to 980 doors, or however many we had in the 3 markets. And I thought that when I talked to people at all these different conferences, I realized that a lot of them could use a lot of help. Like they didn't know what the org chart should look like. They don't know a personality profile. They didn't know that about all the different job descriptions. And so since we had them, we just kind of polished them up, and we feel like VPM would be a great hub for free resources. And so that's why we built it. But Peter, can I talk about how we should go about building the org chart? Like what's
That was my next question.
right?
Absolutely.
So, all right. So how do we go about building the org chart? Well, I'm a big fan of Lucid Chart. I don't know if everybody here knows Lucid. My background was an IT guy. I was an IT guy for 25 years before I got into property management. And in IT, everything was process flows. Everything was flow charts, and Visio was kind of the tool of choice.
Let me just stop you real quick. So for everyone that doesn't know, Pete loves his charts, his process flows, and his worksheets. So Lucid is a great tool. Yeah, if you're not using it, take a look at it.
Hey, listen, if you ever just want to reach out to me and talk process flows and flow charts, I'll show you all the stuff that we built for VPM. It's awesome. I mean, anyway, I know it's not for everybody, but they used to call me Data Flow back in college. That was my nickname. Go Data Flow. Go Data Flow. It's your birthday. Anyway, so I use Lucid Charts about $100 for the year. It does everything and anything that you want. And then there's like a supersized one, but $100 gets you everything. What I like about Lucid Chart is each box, I can link it to like a job description, right? Which is super cool, right? And so with Lucid Chart, you just go in and you just drag your basically squares, really, for lack of a better word. And in each square, you put in your job name, right? The job title, right? The role title, right? So from CEO down to, maintenance coordinator to leasing assistant, whatever it is, right? And so what we did, Peter, at VPM is we built these org charts for you guys, and we wrote down all of the tasks that need to be done in the property management industry. So then you guys can take that and literally build your own job, your own org chart based on all of those items that need to be done. And so you just connect the dots, and then with each box, again, there's a rule, make sure there's not two people that own the box, right? So you can have 4 different maintenance coordinators, but those are 4 different boxes, right? But you can't have like Pete and Steve be a maintenance coordinator, like they're like, and own it. Like they have to, like, you have the maintenance coordinator, you have your maintenance coordinator supervisor or maintenance vice president. Somebody has to own the department, and then you get multiple people doing the role. That makes sense. And then if you're into traction, Gino Wickman's book, Traction, highly recommend it. He'll tell you that in each one of your boxes, you should have 3 main bullet points of what that job does. I'm a bigger fan of you can do that, but I'm a bigger fan of having a job description for every box. So every box in your org chart has to have a corresponding job description, because or else how else do you know what that person's supposed to be doing? The hardest thing to do is hire people when you have no idea what they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
So I'm going to rope you back in. I'm going to rope you back in before you get too far.
I know we're out of time.
Job descriptions is something else we're going to talk about in the upcoming webinars, right? But we talked about what an org chart is, what does it look like, why they're important, and how you create them, right? So so Jonathan Cook says that since your name was Data Flow, we should have a dance for you. Instead of it being the worm, it should be the Data Flow dance.
Jonathan Cook, yes.
So yeah, we're almost out of time, and we wanted to keep these short and sweet, because again, everyone's super busy, especially right now in the summer. But we wanted to provide enough value through the content so that folks understand, and they can reach out to us, right? They can reach out to you, to me, if they need more help with, in this case, with an org chart. They can go to our website and look at the resources that we have there. So we'll end it with this. We did say that we would take up 23 minutes of your time today, and there's a really specific reason why we've been doing a play on the number 23. So Pete, I think we should end it, wrap it up within the last 2 minutes, if you can, to tell us why 23 is so important in VPM.
Yeah. So when VPM grew, we ended up having 33 team members, and 23 of them were virtual assistants that handled 90% of all of our property management. Only escalations went to our property managers. So if you called our company, you talked to somebody that was a virtual assistant, whether it was for maintenance, whether it was a new lead for property management. or if you called about, where's my application or anything like that, anything, tenant relations, owner relations, all of it was down in, most of our people were in Mexico, but there was 23 of them. And so most of all the property management was done there, which allowed us to reduce our salary costs and allowed us to become a proactive business, which reduced our churn, increased our profitability, and actually increased our revenue too, because we obviously keeping more people. We're able to push more projects out, resident benefit packets and things of that nature. Because when you're so busy and your team is overwhelmed and they're overworked, the last thing you want to do is more work, right?
Yeah.
And we were able to build relationships with our owners, which reduced our churn, gave us more online reviews, and it gave us more referrals. So that's why 23 is special to me. And of course, it's Michael Jordan's number.
And to Michael Jordan. Yeah. You created
Actually,
a team
Don
of
Mattingly, New York Yankees, Don Mattingly number.
Well, we will wrap it up. Thank you everyone that jumped on this afternoon. We really appreciate it. And hey, look, we managed to get through the webinar. Pete's from he's from New Jersey, so I'm surprised he didn't drop the F-bomb. So we got through the webinar without the F-bomb. So guys, if you would, if you want,
I'm not allowed to curse on Northam Radio. That's how I learned that, by the way.
Please connect with us, vpmsolutions.com. You can reach out to myself or Pete. My email address is on the screen. We'd love to hear more about you, any questions that you may have regarding either virtual assistants or the industry. Like I said, we have more webinars coming up in the next coming months regarding job descriptions, KPIs, and so much other. So we thank everyone for jumping on here today. Pete, thank you for your time as well.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it.